There it is. I love that lid, John. That is fantastic. The Expos lid, that is amazing.
I hope there's no Braves fans who are upset by this hat.
No.
Anyway, because
no.
for what reason?
No. I have point of trivia. I have in my collection of stuff, capital C, capital S. I have outfield tickets to the last ever home game that the Expos had at the Big O.
Wow.
I couldn't resist that. And from all the time that I'd covered stuff locally in Atlanta and CBS and everything, it was like you knew when the date was. And so I ended up getting like a row of seats in the outfield at the Big O. And it was one of the places when I went to go catch up with Michael Barrett, who I'd known since high school, and I'd covered him since. I guess this is story time with John. I forgot the lower third. One of the few places that I've ever seen people smoking in the concourse indoors at a dome was at the Big O.
Yeah, we love our cigarettes here. There's no doubt about that. And I think Michael Barrett was just up here for Expos Fest just over the weekend or something like that. So he's still got the ties to the city, but yeah. There is, there's a Quebec cocktail, they call it, and it's so your favorite alcoholic beverage and a cigarette, as we say over here.
That's very cool. John is play-by-play voice for CF Montreal. We have brought him in for opposition research as they get ready to take on Atlanta United this weekend. I guess we can take it in two separate stages. When Marco Donadel was sent packing, what was it like watching this team on a weekly basis with him in charge? I think it was only 7 wins in 36, but this season specifically, what was it like to see CF Montreal out there on the pitch with what they were trying to accomplish under Marco Donadel?
I mean, I feel bad constantly doing this because it does feel like I have like a personal vendetta against Marco Donadel or something like that. But, it was just unfeasible. It's nothing unwatchable. You could just tell that it was never going to work. Just speaking to a lot of managers and coaches around the league, every time that there was a preparation for CF Montreal, they would talk about how unique the system was that they're playing. And look, you can be unique and you can be cute and you could be forward thinking, a really talented player. The reality is that Montreal has spent, compared to the other teams over the last years, very little money playing a man-to-man system that some people have since the 80s. So it wasn't feasible. It didn't make sense talking to players before who were playing for the team or who had moved on. It just was never going to work. And look, they made a mistake hiring him. There's no doubt about that. They only won 2 games at home all last season, and he took over in March. So it's not like this guy didn't have a long track record for them to make their assessment of him. But the problem is that it feels like they are so paralyzed, or they were so paralyzed by their former perceived inability to give coaches any kind of time. And so they thought, here's a guy for the club. He's got connections with the owner. Let's give it with a good roster. They upgraded the roster in certain spots, but he was never going to be the guy. It just couldn't happen. And so, look, I know that CF Montreal could be the butt of jokes at the best times for obvious reasons, but I think they definitely made the right decision. And I was saying that, I've been saying this since essentially October, that with Marco Donadel. And so 7 games into the season, move on and bring this guy in, Philippe Lafroy, I think was the right move. And clearly it's borne some relief.
What is the difference with Philippe in that? Because you're getting results. You got a result that I was going to talk about from last weekend. But what is the difference in presentation on the field and off now?
Well, they've been playing much more of a low block, but I think it's more so just it's such a tired trope in all of sports. But they're just getting kind of the dead cat bounce right now with the new manager. I do think that Philippe is much more clear. Marco, it sounded like he was very convoluted with what he's asking the players to do, but they seem much more organized defensively. They clearly want the opponent to have the ball more so than they will have it even when they're at home. But they figured out these ways to counterattack. They've, Prince Owusu's been far better. It's Marco Donadell's gone in terms of hold up and build up play. And so it seems pretty, but they just look much more organized. They look much more together. I think Philippe Lafroy doesn't really want them to play this low block. I think it's just that he said last week that he's only gotten maybe 20 to 25% of what he wants to actually get done tactically into the team at the moment, as he continues to try and build this up kind of week after week. But they just look like a cohesive unit. It's not like they're changing the world. They've reverted from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3, so they have an extra player in midfield. But I don't think Philippe Lafroy is reinventing the wheel. I think he's just invented the old wheel more so than anything. Well, Marco Donadell was trying to do all this kind of crazy exotic stuff.
He went back to the showroom and saw, it's like, no, I'm good with the Honda. I don't need to, I don't need the expensive car. Just give me the Honda. We'll turn it over. The Civic will give me good miles and good gas mileage. And
that's right.
So then when you have a 4-3-3 like this and you want the other guy to have the ball, obviously that puts, I would imagine, a lot of pressure on that back four. Last time out against NYC, it was Petrasso, Vera, Jaden Neal, and Bugai. How, and someone drifting in to be a six or a pseudo six, depending on possession. When you look at that back four in whatever starting version it is, I would imagine it puts a lot of pressure on them, especially late in matches. What's the constitution like in trying to persevere in something like that? How are they handling it so far?
Well, Petrasso and Bugai have been excellent. I don't know about above average MLS starters, but they've been pretty damn good. They have a lot of pace. I think that what's been surprising is Vera coming over Real Salt Lake. I did not expect a whole heck of a lot. I mean, if you look at this guy, it's not to say that I was watching Real Salt Lake week after week, but if you check him out on YouTube, this is a guy who can somehow bang in free kicks from about 30, 35 yards out. And so I thought, this guy's going to be playing more as a left back. It's very difficult spot, very difficult moments early on, but he's really settled in. And I think not the big change, but what I'm very curious to see is Efrain Morales. I mean, who you guys would know very, very well.
Yep.
I thought he was excellent under Marco Donadell because he's kind of this towering, no nonsense. He could bully guys off the ball kind of defender. And I think they've been lucky in the fact that they play the Red Bulls and NYCFC in back-to-back weeks, and that there's not really that big danger man. There's no Benteke to use, just a very tired trope. There's no one really to have to build to deal with in the air. And so Jalen Neal's been able to get away with it. Jalen Neal is a very good defender. Just one on CF Montreal. He's very young and he's got a lot to learn, but he's looked good under Philippe Lafroy. So I'm really curious to see if we can get someone like Emmanuel Latte-Lat or Lobjanitsa or whoever it is, how different that's going to be, because the way they were able to shut down NYCFC, who almost essentially don't play with a recognized nine, was pretty impressive. But at the same time, I think that plays into their hands of what they want to be. I think if you have Jalen Neal and Brian Vera up there, I think the way to kind of break down is obviously crosses in the box as possible, because Neal's 6'2", but let's just say he's 6'2", but he's, like a shoestring. And Vera's just about 5'10", is not really that guy to be up in the air winning balls. And so that feels like, especially the deeper and deeper they drop, if you were, Atlanta and you're trying to get a victory here, I think that'd be the way that you want to try and attack this back four.
Jon Still, play-by-play of CF Montreal, hanging out with us for Oppo Research on a Friday. What has someone like Matty Longstaff brought to the table?
Well, a very interesting accent. At least, no. I really like Matty. He's a funny guy. I actually just ran into him. He's a big guy. So there was a playoff hockey game here. Hockey guy just happened to run into me, and he came onto the radio show for a little bit. He's just tidy. He's just tidy. There's really a lot of flash. He's able to do those little kind of metronome moves in the middle of the park to just kind of pass it to whoever's in his immediate vicinity. He doesn't overthink things. And so, early on with Marco Donadel, I think the fact that it was him and Lattori who were a midfield two, and they don't really have that big time athleticism. Lattori can run for days, but again, he's kind of like a water bug out there more so than anything. So he could kind of get dominated in the middle of the pitch. I just don't think it played to his strengths, and he's been under some criticism for CF Montreal fans because he's not necessarily that technically adept, springing guys forward or anything like that. It's really what Montreal are dying out for. I mean, we don't know if Frankie Amaya is going to be ready to go this weekend, who they brought over on loan from Deportivo Toluca. He seems to be that kind of guy who can play the ball forward, the danger man up front. But yeah, I think Matty Longstaff, he's valuable in what he's been able to do. I think he's some undue criticism here in Montreal, and just being able to keep the ball and not turn it over. He's not going to be someone who's going to be a midfield six, who's going to destroy people, who's going to clear people out. But he makes sure that he makes sure you get the ball to someone who's going to play the final ball. And, Montreal, they're an incomplete team. They need that guy to be able to break teams down. But I do think there's a place for Matty Longstaff in the starting 11.
When it comes to another shiny object like Prince Owusu up top, I know that he instantly gets doubled, or at least gets the consideration of being doubled, because he is that power forward that you're looking for. He's a redwood that is out there that you've got to try and stop. So what has made him successful? Is it fear by defenders, and what has made him clamp down upon offensively? I guess the yin and yang of Prince Owusu. What has stopped him, and what has he been able to create because of positional gravity?
I think it's very simple. I think when he trusts his teammates, he's very good. I think when he tries to be both creator and finisher, I think he gets into trouble. So maybe that one or two extra touches, because he's never felt more confident in his life. I mean, this is a guy when he was at Toronto FC, the whole moniker around him was, well, he does everything but score. And if you're a striker, everything but score is essentially a very back-ended compliment that you don't really want if you're that kind of guy. But it's because he's physically dominant. He can win balls in the air. He's got a great first touch. He's, in terms of being a leader for the team, he really is, to me, the unquestioned leader of CF Montreal. He's a very, on the pitch, he's, very intense. He's got kind of those crazy eyes if his teammates don't give him the ball where he wants it. But off the pitch, he's kind of just like, he's that organizer. He's the guy who's trying to lift people. And that's very rare from a striker, that he's trying to be kind of the guy who unites the team. But all in all, I think that's really it, is that if he doesn't try and do too much, if he doesn't take that one or two extra touches, if he doesn't hold up the ball and doesn't give it to a Longstaff or a Lattori, but he's trying to turn and send someone like a Jaime or a Sinchuk or whoever it is down the flanks, that's where I think he gets into trouble, and he coughs the ball up in the middle of the pitch. He's been much better in the air since Philippe Rafois over. He's been much more of really an outlet than necessarily he was under Marco Donadel. He really started to look like a very frustrated figure in the waning days of Donadel. But he's been banging in goals, man, just banging in the goals at a rate that I don't think CF Montreal fans would have ever expected. I mean, it's not exactly it's not exactly unbelievable history for CF Montreal when it comes to strikers, because they don't necessarily stay very long. But already he's got 23 goals, 22 goals to his in his career in just 2 seasons. I mean, that's already into third all time for CF Montreal. He just passed Didier Drogba maybe about 2 weeks ago, even though Drogba was here for like 9 months, because he's an absolutely insane player. But the Prince Owusu experiment has worked out very nicely, and if he just does the base level things, he's usually able to be that guy who can either win the ball in the air, or he just has that knack that all the best goal scorers have, to play off the shoulder of the last defender, use his strength, and make it very difficult for the back line.
Yeah, I think the goal against NYC is part and parcel to that. Like, if you're looking for a Prince Owusu 101, where you've got defenders bracketing, and he is the one that splits them and gets the leg there first and puts it in the net, I think that would be the microcosm highlight of when Prince Owusu is successful. That's what you're looking for, and that's what Udefla is looking for as well. We've been talking shiny objects. In this matchup against Atlanta United, with an anticipated starting 11 in your head, Give me one of those second level dudes. Give me somebody that, isn't a shiny object, that might be what we think of as like a foot soldier, or someone that just comes in there and does their job. That if CF Montreal is successful, this player X that we have not talked about so far is part of that success. Who would that individual or individuals be in your mind?
I think it has to be Sam Piet. I know he's the captain, but he's the captain in theory now because he hasn't played a whole heck of a lot this year.
Right.
But in that first game back against the Red Bulls, might have been the best game I've seen him play in 2 years. He was just very physical, no nonsense. His whole knock is that he can't play pass forward. His whole thing is he's got to play the ball back, or he's got to play it, horizontally to someone. But when he's just asked to do the very bare minimum of what a number 6, a midfield destroyer, is supposed to do, he's very good at it. Now, I don't know fitness-wise. He looked like he was really struggling last week against NYCFC, so I don't really know how that's going to go for him. But yeah, Sam Piet, especially what I think is going to be a game where they're going to suffer a lot in Atlanta, where it's going to be, again, them not having a lot of the ball and kind of that build-up wanting to be played in the middle of the park. I think that if they're able to break up those attacks, let's say 5-6 yards away from where their back line is actually stationed, and Sam Piet can kind of get that, he can make that win that first ball, and then the counterattack can be released. I think that kind of changes everything for Montreal, because they don't have anyone like that. There's nobody else on the roster who really fits that mold for them. So, if I think defensively it's Sam Piet, offensively, I mean, Wiki Carmona was great in the early going under Marco Donadel, but at the same time, that was playing as a number 10. He's never really worked out, in my opinion, when he was with the Red Bulls playing on the flanks. But before he got injured, he was in the form of his life. And so Noah Streit did not look particularly great against NYCFC after probably his best game in the CF Montreal shirt against the Red Bulls. So, yeah, if it's defensively and being able to win the ball in the middle of the park, it's definitely Sam Piet. And I think Carmona will probably come on as a sub, but considering he's at the height of his confidence right now, that would be the guy that I'd be worried about if I were Atlanta. How's
Game 6 going to go tonight?
Pardon, sorry?
How's Game 6 going to go tonight?
Oh, geez. It's the 21,000 strong question this evening. I always had the Canadians in 7. I think that this is a very young team. I think that you got to learn how to close out an old veteran team like the Lightning. And I think that the moment's going to be a little bit much for them tonight against Tampa Bay. So I always fans will be disappointed. I'm going to be by the arena in my show from 6 o'clock. So there's going to be a lot of bleu, blanc, et rouge out there for Montreal fans to kind of hop upon. But yeah, I think they'll lose tonight, but I think they'll take it in Game 7 because I just don't think Tampa Bay are going to go down fight.
Any clue who's going to be bringing in the torch tonight? Because it's been Yvan Cournoyer.
Oh man, if I said 21,000 strong question, that's the I don't know how many people live in this province, but everybody in the province is talking about who's going to do that. So they had Yvan Cournoyer in Game 1, Serge Savard in Game 2. I'd love for it to be Larry Robinson. He lives in Florida. He was at a couple of the games when he was in Tampa. I'd love for it to be Larry Robinson. My co-host on the radio believes that they're doing it by captain. So they had Cournoyer first, then they had Savard, Bob Gainey. Some people want Carey Price. I'm going to stick with Larry Robinson, though, because I just think it'd be great to see the big bird out there upsetting all the people of Florida while bringing out the torch.
Oh, that would be amazing. I've introduced the boss, pictured here. I've introduced her when we started dating, and she really wasn't a hockey person. I said, well, tell you what, I am, but I'm only going to introduce the sport to you starting with the Stanley Cup playoffs. And so she got hooked. She's in. So literally we'll be watching in the den on the main level. We'll be watching playoff hockey. And so I know the get-in price for Game 1 was, I think, $450. and that was about normal for me. Any clue what the get-in price is tonight?
Oh, got to be at least 1,000 for tonight. I mean, there's no. I just got a text from a buddy of mine who was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like, I don't have a job when about getting into the game tonight, so that he'd be a good person to ask. But I think I heard for game number 4 that I heard of was about $700. And so now, if you're going into this game, I mean, this is the hottest ticket in town for a very, very long time. You know, this is Paul McCartney coming in for the final concert kind of thing for every time the Habs are in an elimination game. So I'd say a cool $1,000 per ticket would probably be in there, and that's just the madness of Montreal Canadian fan mania in this province. As people just lose their damn minds. I would never pay that. That's crazy to me. But I know there's going to be a whole heck of a lot of people who are going to be paying that and way more to be at the game tonight.
So if you would please, sir, please cut the promo on CF Montreal and how folks can listen to you 24/7, 365 or 30/8/370 when it comes to everything going on up there. Cut the promo for me, sir.
Yeah, I'll do my best, Macho Man Randy Savage here.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can get the rasp going that good. No, you can follow me on Twitter at I'm Still Jon with just no H, just like you, John. Thank God, no H's for the Johns here. You can follow me on Twitter at I'm Still Jon. You can follow me on obviously on TX90 in Montreal, and I call some games for TSN on TV up here as well from the time. TSN essentially being like for people who don't know, the ESPN of Canada. And so that's where you can check me out. I call a couple of men's national team games as well, hoping to call that game Ireland here in Montreal with some Irish heritage of my own. That would be pretty beautiful. But that's where you can catch my stuff and doing more MLS where it takes me in the days, weeks, months, years.
Well, and with that cup coming up that the world is chasing after, don't be surprised if we knock on your door to talk about everything going on with the Canadian men's national team. Somebody who gets to actually hear up close and personal the voice of Michel Lacroix. And we know what he means to everything there when it comes to the Rouge Blanc et Bleu. Good to see you, my friend. Don't be a stranger. Have a great day. It's going to be a long one. It's going to be a fun one. And we got CF Montreal and Atlanta coming up tomorrow night. Thanks for doing Oppo research for us on a Friday. Be good.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Have a good one.